Hello and welcome to the Standard Protocol Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sutter, and this is my brand new podcast geared towards giving Millennials and Gen Zs a little advice when it comes to navigating their careers out there, whether you're in the corporate world, government, small business, medical industry, military, wherever you find yourself at this point in your life. You're probably questioning things. You're probably wondering if you're doing the right thing every day. Are you living your best possible life? Is your career taking you somewhere? Or are you just stuck in place going through the motions every day? Well, for those of you that are wondering, I myself am a millennial. I'm 40 years old, so I was on the front end of the millennial generation. And really, what that boils down to is I'm about halfway through my career. I've got about 18 years in, and I've hit that crossroads where I'm kind of questioning, could I be doing more each day? Or am I just stuck where I'm at? I don't believe that I'm stuck. I think that there's potential for all of us to move on to different things. But the issue that always comes up, the number one issue that I see, is that people get into a situation where at this point in their lives, they've got families, they've got mortgages, they've got bills to pay. And how do you go about just dropping what you're doing and taking a different path? Because there's always that fear that if it doesn't work out, can I continue a source of income and continue to keep my family and myself moving forward in life? And that is a very real struggle that we all face. And it's a very tricky question to navigate. So that's what this podcast is all about. Talking about experiences in the corporate world, different leadership types that we've seen, different corporations that are doing well. I myself am in a government position. I've been in government for about 18 years. I did a brief stint in the corporate world prior to getting into a government role. And to be honest with you, the corporate world wasn't really for me. I noticed that I disagreed with the politics of the company. I didn't necessarily think the right people were getting rewarded. And you know what? Here I am some years later in a government position, and I'm kind of seeing the same thing. There's a lot of dirty politics. There's a lot of people being placed into leadership roles that shouldn't necessarily be placed in those roles. They don't meet the qualifications, or they don't have good decision-making skills. So all of these things can compound on you if you are a little bit unsure if you want to continue to stay in your current line of work, or if you want to jump and move somewhere else. We all know that the grass isn't always greener somewhere else, even though it may appear that way. But really, this is just a way to have a forum for people to discuss what it is that they're doing in life. What changes have they made that they are glad they made? What changes have they made that they regret? And this is a forum for people to discuss those things. We have an email inbox set up that you're more than welcome to shoot me an email at. We'll get your topics or your issues for discussion on the air. And that email is standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com. Standard Protocol Podcast, all one word, @gmail.com. So if you send that, that'll come directly to me, and we will read those on the air, provided that they are of substance. And we'll try to troubleshoot some of these problems for you. And hopefully we get some feedback from other individuals that maybe find themselves in a similar situation to you or I. And hopefully we can help each other out here. It's all about building a connection and making sure that we all understand that we're all dealing with the same struggles, and the struggles that we have out there in our jobs and in our lives. These struggles are real, and we can't ignore them. We have to help each other through them, because that's what part of being the human race is all about. So with that, I will dive into my first topic. Just a quick introduction about me. My name is Matt Sutter. I am 40 years old, so I'm a millennial by definition. I'm on the front end of that generation. And again, I've been in a government position, actually law enforcement position, for about 18 years now. I'm an executive level manager in a state police organization somewhere in the Midwest, we'll say. And I've been in law enforcement for 18 years. I did a brief stint in the corporate world prior to that. I've got a lot of experience in the field, K9, executive protection, field operations, tactical operations. I've been a commander now for quite a few years. And, really, I've enjoyed every minute of it. But again, hitting that crossroads, turning 40 and looking back at the first half of my life and looking forward to the second half, am I in the right place? Is this what I should be doing? Is this where I need to stay? Or do I have the potential to do bigger things elsewhere? And whether or not you're constantly evolving, I think that's a question that we all need to ask of ourselves from time to time. I've always said that if you get in a position where you're just mailing it in every day, you're just coming in, going through the motions, it's probably time to challenge yourself a little bit more. It's probably time to move on. And so that's really where I'm at in my profession. Now, we all know the law enforcement profession has changed quite a bit over the last few years. But also positions in the corporate world have changed with the pandemic. Positions, small businesses have changed. The medical profession has changed dramatically. And, there's a lot of uncertainty in military positions as well. So all of these areas that we find ourselves working in, they've all got the same challenges. And there's a lot of uncertainty in all of these positions into what the future holds. And obviously, if we had the answer to what the future holds, I'd certainly be light years ahead of where I'm at now. But the bottom line is there's a little anxiety there for all of us, I think. And as we continue to grow in our lives and as we move forward, it becomes incumbent upon ourselves to lean on each other for that help and that support. So that's what we're here for. And in future episodes, I plan on bringing on guests into the podcast here to talk about some of these things and share their experiences. And hopefully we can build a connection with many of you, and we can, we can interact and help each other and keep moving forward in life, because that's really what it's all about. Okay, so I wanted to touch a little bit on the various leadership styles that I've seen out there in my professional life. Obviously, I think we're all subject matter experts in this area to a certain extent, because we've all worked for great leaders and we've all worked for terrible leaders. And so having the experience under both, there are things that you take away from each of those. And in some cases, you may take away more from the bad leaders than you do from the good ones. But at the end of the day, we all know what works and what doesn't. One of the things that I see routinely in the government setting that I'm in, as well as the corporate world, is that you have these leaders that are what I call suppressive in nature, where they have all of the information at the top and they are hesitant to funnel that information down to the lower ranking people in the organization, because if the lower ranking people know as much as they do, well, they become threatened by that. And so they will intentionally leave out tidbits of information that you need to get things done on a daily basis. And that way you're not doing the job at the same level that they would be if they were in your shoes. And that, I think, inflates their egos, and that makes them feel like they are in charge and they're the top dog on the block. And really, that is, in every environment where I've experienced a leader like that, it is not productive at all. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's counterproductive. So one of the things that I've always tried to instill in young people that are trying to climb the ranks or trying to obtain those leadership roles, you've got to share all of your knowledge with everybody around you. And when you have a team that is comprised of subject matter experts in so many areas, even if that means they're sharper than you in certain areas, that's okay. It's okay to instill it's okay to instill that knowledge in your people, because when they go out and they function at a high level, they will make you function at a high level and make you look good as well. So one of the things that we try to get across, one of the points that we try to get across is just, don't be that suppressive leader. Don't be the one that holds all that information at the top. Don't be the one that is reluctant to let people beneath you grow. And I hate using that term, people beneath you, because we're not, we shouldn't be measuring rank as being above or better than anyone. But in the corporate ladder, people on the lower rungs, you want them to become as good as they possibly can, because that helps the team function as a whole, whether it's a division or a unit or the entire company overall. Maybe you're in a small business where the frontline customer service employees are the ones that are representing the business on a daily basis. You want them functioning at the highest level possible. And for anybody that disagrees with that, I would say, I would question your leadership motivation. I would question your abilities to build a strong team if you're a staunch advocate of suppressive leadership. So, one of the things that I did when I was in the law enforcement profession, I always tried to get as many young people on the sergeant's list or on this first line supervisor's list as I could, because that was a good representation of our troop area. And if my area was the one that everybody came to build themselves up and to get promoted and move forward, I was never going to have a problem recruiting people into my area. They would be beating down the door to get in. And that's historically, that's what happened. So you always want to be that type of leader where people know if they come work for you, they're going to learn things, they're going to get tools of the trade, they're going to get everything they need to be successful leadership figures themselves later down the road. That is what it's all about. That's what being a leader in any organization should be about. It shouldn't be about you. It shouldn't be about your ego. It should be about your people and how do you make them the best you possibly can. One thing that we always get into inevitably when we have these leadership conversations is just overall generational differences. I talk a lot about millennials and Gen Zs, but understand the historic perspective of baby boomers to Gen X's to millennials to Gen Z's. That historical perspective really, I think, is what you need to know going into a leadership role nowadays. The overall, the overarching thing that I see, with the older generation in leadership is they tend to lead based on what they've done in their careers and what their resume says, and they're not afraid to tout their previous experiences and the sense that they have all these things on their resume, and this is why you should follow me because I've done all these things. I've been there. I've done that. Check all this out. If you follow me, you can do these things too. But the reality of it is, I don't think that millennials and Gen Zs are as impressed with people's resumes anymore as those previous generations were. I think what the millennials and the Gen Zs look at now is where are we heading in the future? And I think that's how I always was somewhat successful in building a followership, because I didn't tout all the things that I'd done in my career. I didn't sit there and read you my resume and tell stories every time I talked to you. We talked a lot about where we're going in the future and where we're headed and what our visions are and short-term goals, long-term goals, all that stuff. And I think a lot of people saw that when you're more forward-looking than you are, looking back to the past. When you're more forward-looking, you can build a followership because people will look at you and go, okay, this dude's headed somewhere. He's on the right track. If I jump on board with him 5-10 years down the road, I'm going to be in good shape too. And I think that's how I was able to resonate with the younger crowd of officers and employees that we had, because we always were forward looking. We were never looking back at the past. And if we were, it was only for the purpose of, realizing our mistakes and what we tried that didn't work and how we can do it better. And everything was about a forward look. Even when we were looking back, it was about how do we use that to move forward. So being a forward leader and a forward thinking leader and just representing your area from a futuristic perspective, that is what's going to build you a followership this day and age. So again, if anyone has any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns about that, feel free to jump on the email, standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com, standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com, and we will read those emails on our next podcast. We will go through those and try to get your questions answered, or if you have any feedback for us that you'd like to pass along to the current generation in the workforce out there, by all means, shoot it our way and we will put it on the air. So with that, I think we will close out our first episode here. I appreciate you sticking with me through this. There is more to come, and there will be more valuable episodes, I think, on the way. So please stay tuned. Again, shoot us an email, standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com. And with that, stay safe out there. Have a good rest of your week. Take care.